Rebel religion in the news.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Religion. No, welcome to Rebel Religion in the News. I'm Jerry O'Lennon, Alfredo Romero, Rock of Life Fellowship, Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine, Canterbury Anglican Church in Chico. We're in Chico, California. For those of you watching the podcast, for those of you listening on the radio, you already know that we're in the North State in Chico, California. We're going to talk about, in the second segment, about celebrities getting old and facing mortality and what we could learn from their experiences as we ourselves reach the age of 80 and beyond. But right now, we want to talk, first of all, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Let's just get a couple things that we want to get out of the way that happened this week in Chico. One was the Women's Resource Center in Chico. It's a pro-life organization. They had their banquet, and if you're watching the podcast, you can see the video right now. Huge turnout. Among those that were there were Bishop Peter Hansen, and it was a very successful event. And I don't know how much money was raised. The Women's Resource Center is a pro-life organization that tries to encourage women to carry their babies to full term instead of having an abortion. The guest speaker for the second year in a row was Seth Gruber. Wow, he was a fiery guy.
He's fiery.
Yeah, he basically called out the churches, called out the ministers and said, you guys are not doing enough to encourage people not to have abortions. You should be, kind of had an in-your-face type of presentation.
Well,
Were you okay with that?
Well, he is spicy, that is for sure. And sometimes it takes a little extra push to get pastors off of a place of comfort. We are admonished an awful lot not to be political. And I liked his point, especially when he said, these are not political points. These are moral points. This belongs to us. Mm-hmm. The political world has co-opted this. And now we're forbidden from commenting on it because it's in politics. But these moral issues were ours. Mm-hmm. The beginning of life, the question of the soul, the matters of value of human beings. That was not politics. Now it has been co-opted.
Great point. It was more than what he said. It was how he said it.
Yeah.
And I got the feeling that he thinks that pastors should have more fire in their belly when it comes to this issue. I mean, to get on the highest mountaintop and declare that this is a terrible thing to do, there's the taking of life, etc., and that he feels that sometimes ministers just say what should be done, but don't really get their hands dirty and say, we really need to stop this. That was the feeling I got from listening to him. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say there's this Bible verse saying that kind of in the final days that people are going to want to hear what just tickles their ears and are not going to really want to hear the real truth. I'm kind of liking him, Seth Gruber, to that. He's not here to tickle your ears. He's here to lay it out. Hey, This is wrong. This is not what God wants. This is the taking of a human life. Yeah, he's not trying to tickle anybody's ears. He's not mincing words. So,
the pro-life issue, the pro-life stance, was at one point sort of writing letters and making strong statements somewhere in print where it would be ignored. And Operation Rescue came out, in the late '80s, to say if we believe that it's murder, why aren't we treating it like it's murder? Mm-hmm. There's murder going on behind these clinic doors, and they went to the point of blockading the doors so that women couldn't get in there and murder their baby. Mm-hmm. We're treating it too lightly, but the founder of the movement, and I knew him a little bit, was angry at the church because the church wouldn't get with him on this. He wanted to make people angry and get them out there and confront the police and confront the powers that be and get in the courts and make a big splash. And a lot of people went to jail just for trespass, standing in front of a clinic door. It eventually segued over into confronting the doctors and going to their homes and places of clubs and so forth and picketing them and saying, it was a program called Nowhere to Hide. And this guy's an abortionist, make big signs and try to shame him out of town. Mm-hmm.
Is that going too far? Is that going too far, you think?
Technically, no.
Yeah.
but it was ad hominem. You know, it was going against persons instead of issues.
Yeah.
And then doctors started getting shot.
Yeah.
And then I got on the radio with Randy and said, do you find that there's any link between your program there to bring this home to individuals and personal assaults that are going on against clinic workers, because there are people dying now, and we're pro-life.
Yeah.
Maybe a step too far.
Let's move on to a different topic real quickly. I want to mention something that happened in your church this past Sunday, and we'll just keep this just for a minute or two, because it was very nice. There was a chamber music for piano and winds by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, a group of musicians that were beautiful, and plus the acoustics in your church. And you can see, if you're watching the podcast, it sounded wonderful. Mm-hmm. And just tell us why you decided to host this.
Well, we have as our as the man seating our organ bench, Bradley Martin, who's PhD musicologist and teaches at the university, and he proposed this, and I said absolutely. He asked me at one time, "Can we have music concerts?" I said absolutely. Mm-hmm. Classical music is a joy. So yeah, this is this presentation of Mozart pieces. Then there's going to be one again on November the 24th.
Okay.
At 2:30 in the afternoon. It's a Sunday afternoon, and it will be also Mozart's chamber music for strings and piano.
See, for most of us, the only thing we really know about Mozart, for me, is the movie Amadeus.
Yeah. Well,
and did he or did he not have anything to do with Salieri's death? I don't think that's been determined. We don't
who
know.
knows that? But
Who knows that?
but he definitely was kind of a weird guy.
Yeah.
That was fairly well portrayed.
Yeah, by Tom Hulce, I believe, was the actor who portrayed him.
I think he won an Academy Award for that.
He was nominated. The man who played Salieri, he was the one who won Best Actor that year,
F.
1984.
Murray Abraham.
Yes.
Yeah.
F.
Very
Murray
good.
Abraham. Yes. Abraham.
Abram.
Yeah, you're right. He did win it in 1984, I believe it was. Okay, serious stuff.
All right.
Gretchen Whitmer is kind of was in the hot seat. She apologized because she wore a campaign hat for Kamala Harris and fed Doritos to a kneeling podcast host in what critics said made a mockery of a sacred Christian rite. Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, said that she didn't mean any harm. The video was intended to spotlight an effort to increase money to bring more semiconductors into the United States, which is probably a good cause. But she didn't do it very well. Religious leaders saw it as a spoof of the sacrament of Holy Communion. The issue isn't whether it's a spoof or whether it offended Christians. Yeah, it was upsetting a little bit. But for me, I look at it and I go, are you too stupid to be the governor of Michigan? How stupid do you have to be to not realize, gee, this isn't a good idea. This should disqualify you from ever running for any office, anywhere, any place, anytime. You are too stupid to be a politician. I mean that seriously. How could anybody look at this and say, oh, this is funny. This is a good idea. Let's make fun of a Christian tradition of Holy Communion.
But that's what happens. You are like fully able and willing to mock Christianity in any way, from the Olympics with the Last Supper, to mocking the Eucharist and communion, and where Jesus says, "Hey, do this in remembrance of me." Now, if she wanted to, first of all, if she would have done anything against a Muslim religion, let's say.
She wouldn't have done it.
She never would have done it. But you'll definitely do it about Christianity because, hey, we love each other. We forgive people. And that's not what's going to happen with other religions.
We take it on the chin.
We take it on the chin too much. Yeah, too much. But the thing I was thinking, if somebody was like creative and they wanted to use Dorito chips to somehow promote chips, I would have had people sat around like a poker table. And instead of chips,
there you go.
I would have used, I'll raise you 2 Doritos.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I would have used that. Instead of poker chips, I used Dorito chips.
Good idea.
But they totally do. Well, my major is business sales marketing, but I would have done that. You're right. How ignorant could you be unless you just did it on purpose and you don't care?
Bishop, I don't think we should be offended. I think the attitude that Christians should have is just the attitude that I just had.
Make your choice. You're going to the ballot. Now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Christians should be, oh, I'm so offended. I'm so offended. Just say, no, you are too stupid. And I mean that seriously.
Really?
You're too stupid to be the governor, and that's what Christians ought to say. And I don't know whether that would be okay or not, but I would mock her back as being a complete moron with an IQ of about 12 to actually think that this would be a smart thing to do.
Along with her fake abduction and all that kind of.
Oh, yes,
Stuff.
that too.
And of course, the war bonnet on Elizabeth Warren yesterday for Original Peoples Day.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, that was somebody put a meme together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm an indigenous person. I'm Native American.
I know you really are.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm a real Apache Indian. And,
Right.
the thing about it is if people mocked my heritage, I'd be offended.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Christianity, we, I always say this. If the enemy's going to go after something, he's not going to go after the fake things. He's going after the truth. That's why Christianity is always attacked. It's the truth. So, there you go.
You've seen the bumper stickers or tags on the back of cars with the Darwin fish, where there's, people use the fish to say I'm a Christian, which I think is a little tactical mistake because anything you do on the road is going to identify you as a Christian if you do bad things. But the fish that says Darwin on it, and then it's eating another fish that has a cross on it, or the little symbol for fish on there. They don't understand what that fish was about. That was a secret symbol for Christians because they were being killed. All right, and the ichthos, which meant fish, was an anagram for Jesus Christ of God, Son and Savior. But it was quietly said because people could sketch it on the ground and say, "Good, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. We trust each other with our lives," because they'd kill us if they found us out.
Yeah.
Boy, I learned something.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It was a secret symbol, and if people are going to make that kind of fun of it, we're going to eat your fish because Darwin's stronger.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
We are going to step aside. We're going to continue our discussion with Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine Canterbury Anglican Church out of Chico. We're going to talk about mortality and how celebrities are getting worried. We'll be right back.
Dig the music.
Hey, welcome back to Rebel Religion in the News. Hey, just real quick note. If you want to see the podcast, you can go to KKXX Facebook site, or you can go to the YouTube channel, Rebel Religion in the News. If you want to see the podcast, or if you missed a show, you can go back and see other shows. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. That'd be awesome. We were talking earlier before we started the show about a couple of articles about some of the celebrities that are now thinking, wow, I'm getting a little up there. And now they're thinking about their mortality. Elton John came out and says, well, I'm 80. I'm getting up there, almost 80. And now he's talking about death. And then Al Pacino came out and says, I had this near-death experience. I'm 80. I'm trying. And we started talking about how a lot of the people that we grew up with, I kind of grew up in the 80s, are getting older. And they're now starting to think about their mortality and death. And we started thinking about rock and rollers like Mick Jagger just turned 80, and he has no signs of stopping right now. So yeah, that's one of those things where you start going, wow, I'm getting older. Somebody told me yesterday, Sammy Hagar's 77.
They say death is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
And that is the truth, isn't it? Because all of this fame and fortune will mean literally nothing.
Oh, yeah.
When you're on your deathbed. It means zero.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was thinking yesterday we were at a meeting at the church and somebody's looking up an article and he scared me because I actually saw Sammy Hagar in concert a few months ago, and he just goes, "Oh wow!" He goes, "Sammy Hagar, 77." Wow, and I thought he was gonna say that he passed, and I got mad. I go, "Why did you do that?" He just, 77. Oh, Sammy Hagar. So I started noticing that people, once they get to the 80 age, start thinking about their mortality and what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, Elton is 77. Quoting him here, he says, "I wonder what is going to happen to all of this stuff when I finish. This is the latter time of my life. I don't know how much time I have left." And you don't think about that more. When you think about that more when you get my age. You think about life and death. You think, well, I just want to be where I want to be now. Anyway, he's led a life that from the Christian perspective, has not been something that is pleasing to God. He's married to a man, David Furbish. He has 2 children, very young, and he was kind of lamenting the fact that he might not be there to help his children because these children came into his family's life when he was in his mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, any thoughts on this? I mean, this is something that we all go through. I mean, all of us are getting to that age.
Yeah.
And is there a lesson somewhere in here?
Well, which lesson? Elton John has remained a positive element in rock music. Now, he was a challenge, as you say. You know, he was the first sort of out of the closet gay man who was presenting in the complete pop genre. You know, here I am and wearing these crazy outfits, and he was very flamboyant, but he was never nasty. You know, he was
Right.
he was never. You know, we didn't have to have into our face anything more than just the fact that yes, he's gay
And he was very flamboyant with his costumes and
Yeah.
his glasses,
but he's
kind
talented.
of like Liberace
Like
in that
Liberace.
sense.
Yeah, that
But
would
he
be good.
never, and he did espouse a life that he did do good work to help AIDS, to raise money to find cure for AIDS. So he certainly has done good humanitarian things in
Yeah.
his life.
And he's written some very fine music and performed
Yes.
it very well.
Right.
So, okay, you know, I think the Christian world and conservative world have done a lot of adjusting, because at first the proper response was reject. You know, we don't go with that. We don't cotton to that stuff. That's against God's law, and it still is. But you know, guess what? I mean,
You're a sinner. I'm a sinner. He's a sinner. We're
yeah,
all sinners.
we have sin.
Right.
And we all need a savior. So, okay, you know, I'm going to live around that and live with that and not get so freaked. I don't want it pushed in my face. I don't want 12 more steps of how to adjust myself to these kind of things. I mean, it's gone so far beyond gay life now. We got all these little letters that stand for everything, and the trans world is telling us a man is a woman. And there is a limit to stretching our credulity.
You know, earlier we were talking about Mozart. His music still lives, but we don't really, you know, there are going to be a few of those artists where their music is going to live literally hundreds of years past. I mean, I know you love Rod Stewart, but people 100 years from now are not going to remember Rod Stewart.
No. People nowadays don't remember.
Fleetwood Mac, I like Fleetwood Mac, but let's be honest, is Fleetwood Mac going to really
was
be
for a
remembered?
time.
For a time, but maybe a few years afterwards, some of their music will still be heard. The Beatles will probably be, their music will carry on through centuries.
Elvis.
And Elton John to a degree, but ultimately for almost the rest of us, when we're dead, our kids might come and visit our graves,
Yeah,
but that's it. You're done.
25, 30 years later, you can't find evidence
Right.
that we were here.
Right. And all this stuff that we have in our garage, in our basements, eventually somebody's just going to throw that away.
Right.
And say, what do we have all this stuff for?
No, having gone through adult parents being, you know, older and dying, and having to clear out their house and decide what just goes, that we may have used to think that was very special and important.
That's a whole show there in terms of how to do that for your kids ahead of time. You know, I remember when my mom was sick and she was nearly dying. She had her sister, and I know she must have had love letters from a previous marriage or a previous relationship that she probably kept and didn't want me to have them. And she said, "Okay, Irene," who was her sister, "go through this stuff and just throw it out when I'm gone. I don't want the kids to." There are certain secrets, there are certain things that are kept that you just maybe just say, just take care of this. So it was because my mother did that for me. It made the transition without her much easier. That's something I think older people need to do when they're alive. And I'm finding myself doing that now. Okay, we got these boxes of stuff, so I'll put on there, throw this away, throw this away, throw this away.
Yeah.
It's all on the box. I mean, I don't have the heart to get rid of some of this stuff, but I'll say, you don't need any of this. Here are some keepsakes that you might want that might be actually valuable. These baseball cards are valuable.
Yeah.
These records are valuable. Keep these, sell them on eBay. You know, all this other stuff you could get rid of.
I got a bunch of old LPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my son just bought a record player.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, okay, I can start bringing some of my good records to him.
Yeah, actually, those are back in style now.
Yeah, they're coming.
Yeah, they're back. I was going to mention real quick. I told my kids the other day, a couple weeks ago. I was looking at, oh man, Paul McCartney just turned 80, and Rod Stewart's 79, and these
Sir
rock
Paul.
stars from the 60s, 70s, yeah, Sir Paul and Sir Rod.
That's right.
They just turning 80, and somebody told me, say, Sammy Hagar 77, and to try to get them to know how I felt about that, how that weird that is, because I was around for their peak. I go, someday you're going to be around there, and somebody's going to come up to you and go, oh wow, Taylor Swift just turned 60. Or Justin Bieber, can you believe he's 50 now?
Yeah.
And you're going to feel that transition of time. Right. So, I just thought that was interesting.
Somebody said something funny, and I don't know. Maybe it's not funny, maybe it's inappropriate, but I'm going to say it anyway. Forgive me, and I could always cut it out later.
This is called Rebel.
Yes, it's called Rebel. Somebody pointed out how the passage of time really makes see things differently, and they said,
That was Kamala Harris.
well, yeah, Kamala Harris said that several times in the span of 30 seconds. The passage of time is important. The passage of time is something we need to think about. But in this passage of time, we're talking about two women. And this person said, who would ever think that the time would come when Roseanne Barr would be more attractive than Madonna? And I said, I said, wow. And then I took a look. I looked at Roseanne Barr today. I said, she looks pretty good. Then I looked at Madonna. I said, because she really hasn't aged very well. And I thought, that is actually true. And I looked at Roseanne Barr, and I'll show it to you, and you'll agree with me.
For the podcast, you're going to have to put that up there.
Yeah,
It's
really.
true, but it's true. I looked at her picture of Roseanne Barr, and I thought, boy, she looks pretty nice for wherever she is. Look, there's Roseanne Barr now, right?
She looks great.
Yeah, she looks great. There's Roseanne Barr at whatever she is, 60-something, and then I looked at Madonna recently, and I was like, oh, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good at all. So I guess what we're trying to, the point we're getting at is, we're all going to get old. Rodney Dangerfield used to say something in his act, and it always made me laugh. The best thing that could happen to us in our life, this is the best thing that could happen. You're going to get very old, you're going to get very sick, and you're going to die. That's the good news. That's the best thing that's going to happen. and everybody laughed, and there was such truth to that. That's the best we have to hope for. Old, sick, and die.
Well, we all have to, morally, we have to look at the world that we're going to leave for Keith Richard when we're gone. What are we leaving for him to have in this world? Keith Richard.
What's that?
Keith Richard.
Uh-huh.
The guitarist for the Stones.
Keith Richard. Yeah, I thought it was Keith Richard.
Keith Richard.
Right.
Yeah. I always pronounce it.
And he's still around.
He will never die.
He's never died. He's been pickled.
Yeah.
The Madonna pictures is because of the plastic surgery that she's had. She's had
Right.
an immense amount of plastic surgery, and also just from a Christian standpoint here, she's very demonic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very demonic, and she's kind of scary. I'm worried about her.
It leaves a mark.
Yeah, I'm worried about her soul.
Well, we always like to bring up one of our favorite musicians, Alice Cooper, who found, or God found him. And
Yeah.
I always like the way he said he got he got frightened. He got fearful that he was going to spend eternity in hell. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm getting old. I don't want to spend eternity in hell. And through that realization, he found a loving relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're motivated by different factors. And fear is a great motivating factor for people thinking that the end is coming.
Yeah, once you reach a point where you're starting to think about your mortality, and your mortality is getting closer, I hope everyone turns to the Lord.
It's the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes it happens later in life.
Yeah.
Bishop, thank you so much. Pastor,
Appreciate
thank you so much.
Thank
We're out
you,
of
Jerry.
time. The church service time's on your screen for
Rock
St.
and roll.
Augustine Anglican Church. We're out of time. So long, everybody.
Adios.